We start with this. While South Africans are likely to be eating only cold turkey this Christmas, are the leaders who are meant to be fixing the power crisis playing in the dark? The president said years ago that load shedding would soon be a thing of the past. He now says that fixing the electricity crisis is a process. The Minister of Mineral Resources, Gwede Mantashe, has accused Eskom of actively sabotaging the government, while Eskom seems to be unable to deal with saboteurs within its own ranks. Let's discuss the latest. We're joined by the Energy Council of South Africa's CEO, James Mackay. Mr. Mackay, thank you for being with us. Firstly, more bad weather is on the way. Several units are offline, no diesel, after the worst year of rolling blackouts on record. Do you think that things could become even more dire before the end of the year?
There's certainly no shortage of newsworthy items at the moment. So I think that the load shedding that we're seeing at the moment is not a short-term issue that is related to weather. I think, as you've referenced in the introduction, we've seen load shedding since 2006, 2007. So this has been a long time coming, and maybe the deepening of the load shedding is now sort of dawned, I think, on.
All right, Mr. Mackay, can you hear us? That picture seems to have frozen completely, unfortunately, in the middle of our discussion, or at the beginning, hopefully not related to the rolling blackouts. Mr. Mackay, are you with us? All right, we'll see if we can get back to that. And we want to talk about the various players as well. Of course, Eskom dealing with the diesel issue. It hasn't released results that were legally required to be released months ago. Eskom facing various issues. It said that it would have a press conference. That was a few days ago, and we have not seen that yet either. Mr. Mackay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I think load shedding gremlins.
I was wondering if it was linked to that. I've just been talking about Eskom, so let's go there. No diesel, a lack of communication from the top. Then we've seen these wild swings in sort of the stages of load shedding, very unexpected changes. Does it all suggest a level of chaos to you?
The first thing we must just, I think all viewers must appreciate, there's a very big difference in the risk to the country, to assets, and to even to people's safety between stages 1 and 2, which is largely residential and light commercial. And many of us, unfortunately have got used to it and have made plans through generators and solar and batteries. At stages 5, 6, and 7, heaven forbid, is that we are putting our economy really at risk. And an example would be an underground mine with people 3 kilometers underground, turning the lights off, the conditioning, the mine shaft, and the ventilation off is a safety issue. And similarly with a ferroalloys business. So I think we have to separate out what seems to be a knee-jerk reaction around diesel, which is inefficient. It's very expensive. We're burning billions of liters of extra diesel. But in the context of stage 4, 5, and 6, there is a significantly heightened risk. And Eskom must be able to manage the grid safely and securely, get us to the other side. It's like driving along a mountain pass. It's not the time to start shouting at the driver. We've got to get the other side and ask the questions: do we have the right plan? Who must do what? And are we taking the right actions? Yeah. So we've certainly advocated for that approach as business.
All right, and I understand what you're saying, but what I was talking about were some concerns about how Eskom is being run right now. I mean, complaints are even rising that Eskom is not sticking to the schedule. I've personally been in the dark for hours longer than I should have, and those complaints are rising. And we're hearing various problems, a lack of communication, a lack of financial results. So you're saying, despite all of that, we should still have trust in the people in charge?
There's a different question. If we said that there was a miracle team that we were flying in that could fix this, I think that that is up for the board and the ministry to review and consider. But I don't think we're in that position. And the reality is that Eskom are facing a real crisis. They had 24 gigawatts of power offline. And so managing a grid with more power that's off than is on is incredibly complex. And so we have to consider the safety impact of that. I don't think that sort of dropping in new people and new leadership in the short term is going to make any difference, because that is not what's driving our crisis around the broader context of energy.
And it's confusing for the public when a minister accuses Eskom of sabotage while other ministers and the president are saying give management a chance. Do you agree that that really doesn't help people know if they should trust the hands on deck, as it were?
Completely. I think everyone appreciates that and everyone feels that. I mean, I even feel for the minister who suddenly at short notice has to come up with, extra 4, 5, 6 billion rand, which for diesel, which is not budgeted. So I think we've got to step away from blaming each other for how did we get here. It's taken us 10 years to create this energy crisis, and we're going to have to work very hard as a country to collectively fix it. We have many things to do. We've got to build out renewables much quicker than we're doing at the moment. We've got to try and sort of secure and stabilize Eskom. We've suffered from state capture, from loss of skills, from poor maintenance and operational programs. But, changing the executive or the management at this stage in short notice, is that really the answer? My question is that we've got to go much deeper than that. And I know that's very frustrating. Certainly for all of us, it is frustrating as South Africans.
Mr. Mackay, earlier you spoke about the safety issues now, and we know the economic damage is just going to be huge. It is being reported that several metros, like Cape Town and some metros in Gauteng, have started looking at steps in case Eskom decides to move to stage 8. What does stage 8 mean?
So essentially, each stage of load shedding is the loss of an extra 1,000 megawatts of power. And that's why I said, really, at stages 1 and 2, 3, it's residential and light commercial that is impacted the most. By the time you start pushing into stage 4, 5, and 6, the duration and the depth is such that big industries, so smelters, mining sectors, big sort of processes are starting to be impacted from an energy perspective, which means the cost to the economy is starting to ramp up significantly, and it will damage and cause job losses and loss of industry if left unchecked. So I think it's an important rallying point, is that I think as a country we could live with stages 1 and 2. It is very frustrating, but it is not as dire for the economy. But stages 5, 6, and 7 starts to deeply impact our ability to function as an economy and the industry that we depend on for earnings, for jobs, and for just stabilizing the sort of society. So we've got to prevent, and we've got to very quickly find an action plan. There are lots of discussion programs.
All right, that line frozen again, but I think we did get through the bulk of that interview and heard his opinions, and it seems maybe a power unit was actually beeping there. That was the CEO of the Energy Council of South Africa, James Mackay.